Time. Time springs from time, and unquestionable is its dynamism. It moves unto the infinity, leaving behind frozen frames of moments, what gathers at its turns and twists. Time. The delegate of future ignores the past. Yet, just as debris of years are layered underneath the lively streams, scars of memories likewise deposit in the curvature of time. Kolkata is on the move. Kolkata, the city of palaces, the city of culture, the city of joy. In a frantic attempt to overtake time, Kolkata runs along with old time. And the companion of Kolkata in this quest of running has been the wheel. As the wheel of time revolves, the wheels of civilization covers miles after miles with unnumbered revolutions. And gradually, under those wheels, the legs crush. The legs, which were deliberately used at the first morning of human history by man to start a run towards civilization, were crushed by time as well as wheels. In this era of tremendous speed, those tired legs are utter misfits. In warlike Kolkata, amidst rows of modern vehicles, they have been left lonely, the barefoot warriors. It is Kolkata rickshaw which reflects the century-old tradition of this city. Hand-pulled rickshaws, the iconic face of Kolkata, is facing the threat of extinction in present Kolkata. Right from the early days, when people had to move from one place to another, they devised some methods of transportation by which they could also move their resources along with them. This paved the way for the invention of many modes of transport, which included human-driven vehicles also. Among the human-driven vehicles, the prominent one that came to people's mind was rickshaw. Rickshaw in general can be defined as a vehicle that is driven by a man which has the capacity of seating one or two persons at the maximum. Kolkata is the last major city in the world where hand-pulled rickshaws carry passengers. Rickshaws were first seen in Japan around 1868. The word rickshaw originates from the Japanese word jinriksha, which literally meant human-powered vehicle. In 1874, the word jinriksha or jiniksha was published in the Oxford English Dictionary. The word rickshaw was used as a manual labor slang word used in Japan. It soon became a popular mode of transportation since they were faster than the previously used palanquins, which are human labor which was considered cheaper than the use of horses. The identity of the inventor became uncertain. Robert Gallagher, in an article entitled Rickshaw and Prejudice, reports at least 5 accounts of its historical origin. Some American sources give the credit to American blacksmith Albert Tolman, who is said to have invented the rickshaw around 1848 in Worcester, Massachusetts for a missionary. Others claim that Jonathan Scobie or Jonathan Gobble, an American missionary to Japan, invented the rickshaw around 1869 to transport his invalid wife through the streets of Yokohama in New Jersey. The Burlington County Historical Society claims in 1867 invention by carriage maker James Birch and exhibits a rickshaw in its museum. Others say that the rickshaw was designed by an American Baptist member in 1888. This is undoubtedly incorrect, for an 1877 article by a New York Times correspondent in Tokyo stated that the jinriksha or manpower carriage was in popular use and was probably invented by an American in 1869 or 1870. Japanese sources often credit Izumi Yosuke, Suzuki Tokozero, and Takayama Kosuke, who are said to have invented rickshaws in 1868, inspired by the horse carriages that had been introduced to the streets of Tokyo shortly before. By 1872, some 40,000 rickshaws were operating in Tokyo. They soon became the chief form of public transportation in Japan. From Japan, rickshaws reached Shanghai of China. The first rickshaw in China was imported from Japan in 1874 and became the most popular way of transportation for rich Chinese and all the foreigners. It is known from Alice Elizabeth's Dracot's Songs of Shimla. Around 1880 rickshaws appeared in India, first in Shimla, Himachal Pradesh. It is said that the first rickshaw brought into Shimla belonged to Reverend J. Fordyce, though Sir Louis Dane claimed that he had introduced the rickshaw in Shimla from Japan in about 1880s. Then, in British India, from the point of view of administrative importance, Shimla was in the second position after Calcutta. In 1864, Viceroy of India Sir John Lawrence declared Shimla as the summer capital of the British Raj in India. In Shimla too, hand-pulled rickshaws were known as jinrickshas, and there is a reference of jinrickshas of Shimla in Lady Dufferin's memoir, Our Viceregal Life in India. Shimla rickshaw was different from the single coolie that was used to ply in the plains. It was heavier, weighing from 117 to 162 kilograms, and was 9 feet in length and 4 feet in width, and pulled by 4 coolies, 2 in the front and 2 in the back. Sometimes the fifth one would run by the side of a rickshaw. He used to perform the same duty of a stepney in a car, replacing the tired coolie. About 20 years after rickshaws first had been seen in Shimla, it was introduced in Calcutta by the Chinese. Most probably in the year 1900, rickshaws started to move on in Calcutta, though there is a debate regarding this date. Initially, the Chinese businessmen used rickshaws mainly to carry their goods. From the beginning of the 20th century, Chinese population started to increase here in the city. These Chinese people mainly settled in central Calcutta at Bow Bazaar, Dharmatala and Bentinck Street. They engaged in occupation like carpentry, shoemaking and lard manufacturing. Few of them were secretly related with opium trading too. Dentistry was another major occupation among these Chinese people. It is evident from the book of Horishadan Mukherjee's Kolkata Shekaler Oikaler that Chinese population in Calcutta was increasing gradually. According to the then police census, in 1821, the number of Chinese residents of Calcutta was 414, what increased to 771 in 1891. This number almost doubled in 1901, figuring 1466. Thus, with the increase of Chinese population in the city, number of hand-pull rickshaws rose up. In 1912 or 1914, the Chinese applied for permission to use rickshaws to transport passengers. In the year 1919, 15th of January, the British government enforced the Calcutta Hackney Carriage Act that allowed passengers to ply in rickshaw, paving the source of earning for the rickshaw pullers. Not only the rickshaws, this act included palanquins and horse-driven coaches. The law stated, an act to consolidate and amend the law relating to hackney carriages and palanquins and to make certain provisions with regard to rickshaws in Calcutta. However, after the act passed, a new type of job opportunity was available for the poor and 6,000 rickshaws started running on the streets of Calcutta. Soon it became an iconic symbol of the city. Meanwhile, rickshaws were not only confined to just Shimla and Calcutta. Rickshaw had started to ply in Travancore and Cochin of Kerala, Bombay of Maharashtra, Agra and Mussoorie of Uttar Pradesh, and Chennai of Tamil Nadu. While hand-pulling rickshaw was establishing as an indispensable mode of transportation, It also created a lot of controversy, inhuman profession being the theme. Though in pre-independence British regime, it was not any sensitive issue. It emerged as an issue after independence. Let alone the British. Before independence, there were not much hesitation about hand-pull rickshaws among the Indians either. Although Mahatma Gandhi protested against the tradition of hand-pull rickshaws, Mahatma Gandhi in 1921 had written in a Gujarati weekly newspaper Navjivan, "Men are yoked to a vehicle." We also joined the British in turning people into bullocks. But when the Mahatma came to Shimla to attend the Congress conference in the year 1945, he had no option but to ride human-driven rickshaw, as he could not ride a horse as Jawaharlal did. Dr. Rajendra Prasad, as the president of our country, India, on his sojourn in Shimla, was a frequent user of rickshaws. Situations were similar in other countries too. Hand-driven rickshaws had been started to be banished. The reason being the same: inhumanity. The uprooting of hand-pulled rickshaws from the civilized society became a benchmark of modernity. In China, rickshaws were very popular. But when the communists came to power in China, one of the first acts was to abolish the hand-pulled rickshaw. Rickshaws started decreasing once the People's Republic of China was formed in 1949. In Hong Kong, rickshaws were in wide use in the early 1900s. But after the Second World War, their popularity started decreasing. In Malaysia, rickshaws were in operation in the 19th and 20th centuries. But due to urbanization and the need for more efficient forms of transport, rickshaws slowly lost its importance. In India, some were maintaining legal procedure, some were in exchange of compensation, and some were forcefully hand-driven rickshaws were uprooted. Apart from Calcutta, only in the hill station of Matharan in Maharashtra, man-pulled rickshaws are the only forms of transportation to maintain its eco-friendliness. Thus, hand-pulling rickshaw continued to be non-existent, only keeping a scar on the page of history and a mark in Calcutta. Just as the dawn of independent India, hand-pulling rickshaw emerged as an issue of debate in the newspapers, and the rickshaw pullers earned the title Beast of Burden. In the 5th of March 1949 issue of the Calcutta Municipal Gazette, in an essay titled as "In the Defense of the Rickshaw," Shukumar Bose mentions, kind-hearted people ignore the fact that the bodily effort required in pulling a rickshaw is very much less than in a great number of other ways in which men earn their living. Compare with this the work of a blacksmith, the man behind the plough, the mining labourer, the worker at an iron and steel works. Compare the conditions of their work and the wages they earn, perhaps some 12 annas after 8 to 12 hours of labour. How long does it take for the rickshaw wala to earn his 12 annas? According to Kolkata Dorpon of Radharaman Mitra, at the end of the British rule, minimum rickshaw fare was 3 annas and maximum was 6 annas. So it took only 2 to 3 hours to earn 12 annas. Whereas a mining labourer or an iron and steel worker used to earn it the whole day after 8 to 10 hours duty. The reason to be pondered about here is that this serious blame of humanity was never brought forth in case of palanquins. Only a generation ago, people used to be born in palkis, which were of much heavier structure than rickshaws. Palki used to engage at least 4 men to be borne on their shoulders and were extremely difficult and heavy of manipulation. There used to be constant danger of legs catching legs. If not palkis, then why rickshaws? In answer, only silence was available. 2005, 15th of August, the then Chief Minister of West Bengal, Mr. Buddhadev Bhattacharya, came up with an announcement. They had taken a policy decision to take the hand-drawn rickshaw off the roads of Kolkata on humanitarian grounds. Contention of that decision and the reasons behind that decision are: nowhere else in the world does the practice exist, and we think it should also cease to exist in Kolkata. It would take 4 to 5 more months before the metropolis sees the last of these rickshaws. They are thinking of alternative modes of transport so that the transition does not affect either the pullers or its riders. It takes money and time. Though this message was nothing new, time to time, the same message was served to the rickshaw pullers. Earlier attempts were made to take the hand-pulled rickshaws off the road during the rule of Prafulla Chandra Sen, Siddhartha Shankar Roy, and again in Jyoti Basu's chief ministership. Several major streets have been closed to rickshaw traffic since 1970s and in the 1980s. In 1976, the government banned and confiscated rickshaws, considering it an inhuman and barbarous practice, but later backed out due to political pressure and large-scale resistance. On 21st of September 1981, again an amendment to the Hackney Carriage Act of 1919 was passed in the West Bengal State Assembly, but it was dismissed. In the 1980s, there were some 50 to 60,000 hand-pulled rickshaws plying in Kolkata, but the number of licenses that was issued by the Calcutta Municipal Corporation was only 6,000. The ceiling remains the case even today, but this still left something like 40,000 rickshaws which were in use at that time unlicensed. Since each vehicle provided employment to an average 2.2 pullers per day, this meant that nearly a lakh of pullers were being forced to work illegally. Consequently, both the number of vehicles and pullers have gone down substantially. Gradually, on one hand, there have been a fairly sustained, if also sporadic, process of seizure of unlicensed vehicles by the police and an apparently much stricter process of issuing of licenses by the corporation, both for vehicles and pullers. On the other hand, a steep rise in the cost of living over this period that the pullers have been equally faced, as well as the rickshaw fares have been risen very sharply during this time, and that their usage has accordingly dropped. Much publicity was given to constables being given special rewards for seizing unlicensed rickshaws. Long lines of chained vehicles started appearing in front of city